Go ahead and get started. Everybody, please mute their mics. All right. Welcome everybody to the May 22nd Rotary Club meeting, obviously virtual. I want to thank our greeters, Mike and Stephen this week, right? You made it. Thank you for Chelsea for taking our minutes, and Mike Zwick for the great programs, Jim Gundel for the website, and helping me with YouTube and embedding videos. So, Brandon, do we have a secretary's report?
Negative.
All right. I've been keeping an eye on averages, and we're averaging about 46 members or 46 people attending the virtual meetings, and 17 on YouTube, so that are watching live, and that is an average. So that is really good. I've seen that some other clubs are now starting to do virtual meetings, and those, if you are interested in attending any of those, all you need to do is log into DAC TV, and there's a list of everybody that's doing virtual meetings with their email contact information. So if you want to attend some of the other virtual club meetings, you can follow that through DAC TV. And with that, I'd like to welcome our Sergeant at Arms, Dave Fleming. Everybody give him a virtual round of applause.
All right. Thank you, friends and neighbors. So there's some good news amidst some bad news, but top story, one of the top stories, 2.4 million jobless claims filed last week, bringing the national total to 38 million unemployment. Ohio has distributed $2.8 billion in unemployment compensation. Greene County statistics as of, I think, last night, 86 coronavirus cases and 5 deaths in Greene County. Oh, really sad news. The 2020 Ohio State Fair has been canceled. Lower traffic counts due to the pandemic have weakened the chances for a $34.6 million regular, not a stupid bill, but a regular interchange at Trabine and 35. So that's kind of a disappointment. Around the world, it was a good week for lunacy, with reports that residents in several western states and Edmonton, Alberta, are emerging from lockdown every evening at 8 p.m. to howl at the moon. When you hear someone howl back, it's so satisfying, said Emma Kate LaRoche of Edmonton. Billy Taylor, 33 years old, of the UK, extracted his own infected molar last week since there were no dentists available. It took about an hour, said Taylor, who downed 2 shots of whiskey and used a pair of wire twisting pliers. The process was bloody painful, he said. Bob Pitts was the only passenger to board a flight last week from Fort Lauderdale, St. Louis. I feel like I'm a VIP, said Pitts, who was greeted by the pilot, who said, "Hi, Bob." It was a good week for abstinence, with the news that the incidence of sexually transmitted diseases in New York City has plunged 80% since the start of the pandemic. That's what social distancing will do, said Dr. Chris Bungie of the Gotham Medical Group. Belgians were asked to eat French fries twice a week to help shrink a 750,000 ton glut of potatoes caused by the pandemic's impact on food exports. Beaver Creek Library System, Beth. It was a bad week for the Beaver Creek Library after a contractor performing the deep clean of the library put the books back on the shelves in order of size, largest to smallest, which we all know isn't the right way to order books. No, Beth is, and the correct way is to do it by the Dewey Decimal System. That's right. Actually, I lied. This took place in Newmarket in the UK. Beaumont, Texas Mayor Becky Ames was photographed getting personal service inside a pandemic closed nail salon. I pray that you'll forgive me, Ames said when she told her constituents that it was a lapse in judgment. The Vatican censored a video showing Pope Francis reacting to the gift of a bottle of single malt whiskey by holding it aloft and quipping, "This is the real holy water." Good for Pope Francis. He's my kind of guy. A California Highway Police the California Highway Police Department says that while overall traffic levels are down 35% from last year because of the stay-at-home order, the number of speeding tickets for driving faster than 100 miles per hour has increased 87%, with one motorist caught doing 165 miles an hour. Commissioner Warren Stanley warned that higher speeds can, quote, significantly increase the chance of death should a crash occur. Yeah, I think so. And finally, in the news department, a Miami, and we had this conversation earlier about the proper attire to wear to a Rotary Club meeting. A Miami, Florida area judge has warned local lawyers to dress professionally for video conferences after one appeared shirtless and another one addressed the court from her bed. Broward Circuit Court Judge Dennis Bailey complained that since social distancing requirements or regulations force the court system to conduct business online, it's remarkable how many attorneys appear inappropriately on camera. And there are no birthdays, so we can't find anybody for that. Was anybody, you have to fess up now, was anybody late arriving to today's meeting? If so, that's a $1 fine, of course. Here are some other interesting tidbits. If I move my screen to, I have a box called Scott Hadley because that inbox has all of the interesting things that either Scott or some of my other friends supply to me. So here's some helpful information for today. A dime has 118 ridges around the edge. A cat has 32 muscles in each ear. That would be 64 in both ears. A crocodile cannot, anybody know? Cannot stick out its tongue. A dragonfly has a lifespan of 24 hours. A goldfish has a memory span of 3 seconds, and that's male goldfish. A shark is the only fish that can blink with both eyes. And a snail can sleep for 3 years. Al Capone's business card said he was what? Does anybody know? A used furniture salesman. Then here's a couple more things about golf. Was anybody able to play golf this last week or attempt that? Here's some important things that you need to know about golf. Baseball Hall of Famer George Brett said, "Today means one over a house, one over a patio, and one over a swimming pool." And sports writer Jim Murray says, "Actually, the only time I ever took out an iron was to kill a tarantula, and I took a 7 swings." The only sure rule in golf is, according to Baseball Hall of Famer Mickey Mantle, he who has the fastest cart never has to play the bad lie. And actor Kevin Costner, having sex and golf are the two things you can enjoy even if you're not good at them. Let's see. Tom Weisskopf, "The ball retriever is not long enough to get my putter out of the tree." Lord Robertson, "My favorite shots are the practice swing and the conceded putt. The rest can never be mastered." And Jack Benny, "Give me golf clubs, fresh air, and a beautiful partner, and you can keep the clubs in the fresh air." So today's fines are, if you have ever howled at the moon, that's $1. If you have ever extracted one of your own teeth, Now, I remember the system where you tie the tooth to a string and tie the string to a door, and then you slam the. Wasn't that a normal practice to get out one of your teeth? If you ever drank, well, let's say this past month, if you drank any single malt whiskey or drank any holy water, that's $1. If you ate French fries this week, that's $1 in order to help out with the abundance of potatoes, the potato crop. If you had your nails done, and it was not legal in the state of Ohio to have your nails done last week or the week before, that's $1, and it's a $2 fine. If you have been on Zoom or on Teams, a virtual meeting without a shirt. So, Mr. President, I will turn the audio back over to you for the collection of happy bucks.
Thank you. All right. Are there any happy bucks? Go ahead, Beth.
Just want to have a happy buck for everybody who came out to help volunteer with Feed the Creek this week. We had about 10 Rotarians out there that helped load up cars, and just want to thank everybody for doing that.
Any other happy bucks?
I got one. I might not be on the call next week. I got a meeting with the base commander. But afterwards, I'm going to the airport to pick up my little sister. She's 16, but she finished high school, and she's going to come spend 6 weeks with us, my wife and I. But then we've decided she wants to stick around and do community college up here. So it'll be on a 1 semester trial basis, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to be responsible for another human, which is terrifying.
I have one. My granddaughter is in labor right now. She may deliver before the end of this meeting, so I'll have a new great granddaughter.
I have one. My young daughter got her degree, an associate's degree from University of Cincinnati in early childhood education with an emphasis in infants. She did it online. It took her like 2.5, almost 3 years to get her degree. So I'm very proud of her because she was never a really good student, but she ended up graduating from UC with a 3.0, which is way better than my GPA from Ohio State.
Any other happy bucks?
I have one, Alex. I've got a happy buck because I can finally put homeschooling to bed. Today, my kids are officially done with school, and I have a high schooler in the house now, which is equally as scary, but definitely worth $1.
That goes by quick, don't it?
Yes.
Any other happy bucks?
Alex?
I have a happy buck.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted, this is way long overdue, but I just wanted to thank everyone so much for the card and the Target gift card and all of your well wishes. Baby boy is doing well. He turned 4 months yesterday. Can't believe it's going by so fast. Like I said, this is usually his nap time, but I'm sure he'll wake up, and I'll be sure to introduce him to all of you. But thank you so much. We really appreciate all of your support.
I think we need to welcome Jack back now that his picture's on here. I think he found a way to get out of safe driving mode.
Yeah, that's definitely $1.
Okay, Eric likes the timeline. I get that. So yeah, I have one too. I had the equivalence of maybe a 4-homer game for a professional player, having 2 bills passed out of the Senate going to the governor for signing into law. One was had to do with from Gene Fisher, as a matter of fact, about allowing detention facility folks to have evaluations when they come into contact with bodily fluid in the course of their job, which is a no-brainer. All the deputies, sheriffs, police officers have that. The other one had to do with special needs appendix for military members. When they come to Wright Pat or anywhere in Ohio, they'd have to wait in line for years and probably PCS before the time they get it. This will allow them to get immediate help, assistance, care for their dependents when they come into town. Both great bills, and it's like my going away party, I think. So I'm very pleased that we were able to get those across the finish line.
Great, thank you, Rick. Great job.
Thank you.
Any other happy bucks? All right, let's go with announcements. Any announcements?
I'll make a quick one here. If you haven't sent in your quarterly dues, please do so. You have to mail it to the mailbox, the P.O. box. It's Beaver Creek Rotary Club, and it's P.O. Box, what is it, 0475, Beaver Creek, Ohio, 45434-0475.
Any other announcements? All right, I'd like to once again echo what Beth was talking about Feed the Creek. Beth and I did get an email from Sharon from Feed the Creek. She's very happy with all the help. It was a good turnout by the club. I appreciate that. I also want to thank Stephen Brown for doing the press release. We got, and it's probably, I'm surprised we didn't get fined, or I didn't get fined, because we hit the news that morning, and then they came out and did an interview with both the Rotary Club and Feed the Creek. So thank you, Stephen, on that. And I would like to thank everyone that helped put the flags up yesterday. Kind of neat thing. Well, I think we got it down to a science of getting the flags up. It is really neat to see when we're putting them up how many people are honking and clapping and giving us thumbs up for being out there. So we will be putting some additional flags up over the weekend just for the high school, and that'll be just for the graduation event that starts on May 26th. So it starts on Tuesday, which will go till June 1st. Okay, any other announcements?
So, Mr. President, is that a public affairs announcement, or is that something behind Mike's Zwick that's worthy of a fine? Is that advertising? What do I see there?
On Mike's screen? Oh,
It's my office, and I won't pay a fine.
Yeah, we can't be, especially during the pandemic, finding people for home offices. All right, with that, I'd like to introduce our very own Beth Cusack to introduce our guest.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Karl Cologne is no stranger to many of you. He's a fellow Rotarian with the Xenia Rotary Club, where he currently serves as president. Karl has served as a director of the award-winning Greene County Public Library System since 2007 and has the finest staff in the business. Now, he wrote that, but I completely agree. We are blessed with an incredible staff. A graduate of Oberlin College and the University of Cincinnati College of Law and the Kent State University School of Library and Information Science, Karl's diverse career has spanned private legal practice, service in the Attorney General's office, and technology and administrative work in Ohio's libraries for over 20 years. Karl's a member of the Ohio Library Council Government Relations Committee, the Greene County Job and Family Services Board, the Board of Directors of Greene Inc., the Greene County Law Library Board, and serves on the advisory board for the Ohio Governor's Imagination Library Foundation. Most importantly, Karl is the proud father of two daughters, Lily Claire and Adelia Cologne. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Karl Cologne.
Thank you very much, Beth. Well, this is starting, just so you know, when Mike was kind enough to invite me to address the club today, he opened with a challenge. He said, you know, you're a member of a singing Rotary and all that. Why don't you sing something? And then he said, why don't you sing something by Dolly Parton? And I thought, oh gosh, it's bad enough to ask me to sing. I didn't want any comparisons with Miss Dolly. And normally I would invite everyone to sing, but we tried having a sing-along via Zoom before, and it was disastrous. So I hope you'll forgive me. I'm going to meet Mike's challenge by just picking a song and singing, or a little bit of it. As many of you know, I am a proud Cornhusker from the great state of Nebraska. Our great rivalry, our great football rivalry, is with the state of Oklahoma. And I have chosen something by Oklahoma's most famous son to sing, because at this point, having lived through this pandemic now together for so long, having seen what our communities have done, caring for one another. I'm so proud to be an American, and I thought I would choose a song by this great American, just sing a couple of verses of it, and then I would move on, having met my challenge. I hope that's all right, Mr. Zwick. Well, I roamed and I rambled, and I followed my footsteps through the sparkling sands of her diamond desert. And all around me, a voice was calling. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. Nobody living can ever stop me as I walk down freedom's highway. Nobody living can make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. There you go, Mike. Well, thank you. It is my pleasure to give a speech I never thought I would give during my career, which is the Greene County Public Library Global Pandemic Edition Crisis Report. It has been an extraordinary time. We have learned all kinds of things, and I'm just going to kind of go through some stuff for you real quick, try not to take too long. The first thing that we have learned about is what it's like to serve under the fog of war. We are so grateful to our leaders at the state level, our leaders at the county level, our local health department, Greene County Combined Health District, for answering our endless questions as the information is changing every darn day. During the run-up to reopening, we probably got half a dozen different answers about what we could do with what and who and when, and things just kept changing, but our leaders stuck with us, and we learned so much about what it's like to be in the flow of crisis decision-making during a pandemic. We really appreciate everything that everybody's done for us. It was an exciting few days going from the governor's reopening order to finding out whether we were on that list or not, and we are. And we started doing things that we have never done before. We started buying disinfectant by the gallons, face shields. We made all new signs. We have enough gloves, I think, to glove half of Greene County at this point. We have done a huge amount of work to completely reimagine safety and making sure that every one of you is cared for as we move forward. Throughout the time that we were under the stay-at-home order, of course, we didn't stop serving. We did all of our work through our ebooks, our movies, our music tech out, through services like Overdrive, Hoopla, Acorn, recorded books, and more. Before we started, Eric asked the question, was there a big increase in use of those services? Yes, it was about a 39% increase for the month of April, year on year, and we were not surprised to see that at all. We helped our community continue to learn through our matchless training courses, lynda.com, Gale courses. We offered online music lessons, which we always do, through a service called ArtistWorks. You can study music with a Grammy Award-winning team that's available to you. We realized our kids being at home, this homeschooling that Pete mentioned, and Pete, I feel you, my kids are getting out of school today too. We worked with the slide through services like BookFlix and TrueFlix. These are services that simultaneously teach literacy and core nonfiction information, social studies, science, the things that the kids need every day. Now, of course, your Greene County Public Library has offered that stuff for years. but we're now able to see how incredibly important it's been. And of course, we've been busy through our social media presence. The community hasn't had any fewer questions, and it has needed to have a constant way to stay in touch with our library. Our communications team has been busy. We've also been busy trying to find new ways to serve. As you're aware, we have a makerspace, Spark Place. One of the things that I love about Greene County is that the public library director can know the county commissioners. I can know the health commissioner. And so we reached out to the Greene County Combined Health District and said, hey, is there anything we can be doing for you with our 3D printing capability? And the answer was yes, but the answer I got surprised me. At first, I thought that they would want us to print masks. Well, when another great Ohio company, Battelle Corporation, stood up and made mask cleaning possible, masks became less important, and we learned something new, which was this. Check this out. We learned that when folks are wearing masks, the elastic that goes behind your ears, right? You've all been wearing the masks. You know how that stuff pulls. Well, when you're a nurse wearing that mask for 13 hours at a stretch, it doesn't just pull, it wears holes. It makes sores in your head. And when you've got an open sore in your head and you're serving with a highly contagious virus, that's just plain dangerous. So what the health district asked us for, amazingly, was to print these little clips that first responders could use that would let your mask, instead of pulling on your ears, it would secure your mask safely at the back of your head. It would take the stress off, and it would stop those cuts, and it would improve safety. Well, we have printed thousands of those at this point, and distributed them through the Greene County Combined Health District. We're so grateful that our health officials are in touch with other communities, so we can ask them directly, what is it you need and how can we help you? And Kara Kaus, who is the manager of Spark Place, our innovation manager, she is one of the founding members of something called the Southwest Ohio Maker Alliance. So not only could we work with our network of healthcare providers, but she could actually line up people with 3D printing capacity all over Southwest Ohio and get them working with their health districts. So one of the things I'm proudest of is not just what we were able to do directly, but how we were able to help organize service during the pandemic. Well, as many of you know, we were delighted last Thursday to reopen to the community with our curbside service. I'm grateful that we were able to maintain team readiness. We were able to start serving pretty much as soon as we had clear guidance. And that was only possible because of the tremendous logistical effort that was led by your own Beth Cusack. She worked night and day and set up an operation that is a marvel and is admired and appreciated not only throughout the county, but throughout the region as I talked to other libraries and let them know what we did. I've had the pleasure of serving as a public servant for 25 years, and I've never served with a finer public servant than your own Beth Cusack. Our process seems to work like a charm. You place your holds online just like you always did. You'll get a note when they're ready, and then you can drive up to the Beaver Creek Community Library, call the number on the sign, and a masked librarian will bring out your books and drop them in the trunk of your car. That is a very effective, very safe approach, and we know that it works because we've had thousands of checkouts already. We are so pleased with how the community has embraced us and how they have just jumped right in to use the service. Now, one of the questions that people often have is, how do you keep the books safe during all this? Because, you know, books are going out to the community, they're coming back. The guidelines that we've received from the Centers for Disease Control is that we keep them safe by quarantining them. So when your library book comes back to the Beaver Creek Library, we actually put it in a safe location under a tarp with a date on it, and we let it sit for 96 hours. And at that point, we're allowed to check them back in. Now, that information is always moving. We had originally heard different time periods, and I am absolutely confident we will once again hear different time periods as the knowledge of the virus moves forward. So we're continuing to work in that fog of war that I mentioned, and I am so grateful to Beth and our whole team for their patience as we deal with this uncertainty and information. One of the questions that folks have also is, how is library funding impacted by all this? Well, it's no secret that revenue that we get through the state, through the Public Library Fund, is down. Just because the state's revenues are down, it's not a cut, it's just an operation. Ohio's libraries are funded through 1.7% of a thing called the Public Library Fund. The Public Library Fund is 1.7% of the state's general revenue fund, which depends on income tax, property tax, and corporate tax. So obviously it's down. We took a big hit to our state funding. It was about 35% in May. But thanks to the voters in Greene County who support us with a strong levy that they passed in 2014, we're not looking at closures. We're not looking at disaster. When we asked Greene County for that support in 2014, we said we wanted to make sure that something that happens outside of the county can't close down your service. And folks, you said yes, and that is exactly what has happened. As I said, we've been kicked real hard, but we're not going to buckle. We're actually in pretty good shape, at least as we're going forward. I'm very hopeful that we'll have some restoration of our revenue stream through the state as the reopening goes forward. On other fronts, I'm very happy to share with you that the Dolly Parton Imagination Library project that this club, that Beaver Creek Rotary, was so instrumental in helping to create is continuing to go absolutely bonkers. At this point, we have helped over 11,500 children in Greene County with more than 325,000 books. We, as the many of you who were so kind as to join us at the celebration in March at Xenia Rotary know, we literally set the example that has now been followed throughout the state of Ohio. Throughout the state of Ohio now, there are more than 170,000 kids in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program, and that number is increasing even during the pandemic. So again, thank you, Beaver Creek Rotary. Your example is helping children across the state every day. What else can I share with you? We're excited that there was recently a large donation made by Vectren to support the Greene County Public Library effort in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. It's a donation of about $73,000 that's earmarked to help kids in Greene County. We're very, very grateful for that. And we do that work through a combination of the Ohio Governor's Imagination Library Foundation and Green Giving. Actually, our foundation is part of Green Giving. We are excited to continue moving forward as we receive guidance. We are taking our summer reading, our program, online. We're going to have access for folks, and hi, Emily. We're going to have access for folks available throughout the community. Our staff have been figuring out how to reinvent our services on the fly, and we remain committed to making sure that Greene County has the very best possible library services day in and day out. As I said before, I am extraordinarily proud of our staff. And I think that kind of covers the main elements of the report. I realize she's not scheduled to speak today, but it is my practice never to comment on the library's work without also sharing the floor with Deputy Director Cusack since she's here. Beth, have I missed anything or anything that you would like me to comment on?
One thing that I would want to add is that while we're closed to the public and only offering curbside, we're excited that we are offering a new service called a home collection. For years, we've been offering teacher collections and then collections to homebound individuals where our librarians will actually do the browsing and selection for you. And we are now extending that to the general public. So you can go to our website, fill out a form called Home Collection, and answer a few questions about what type of materials you're interested in, authors that you like, certain genres, and we'll actually do the browsing for you, do the selection, and then have it ready for you at curbside pickup. So that has been a popular service and something that I'm excited that we can launch while we are no longer open at the moment and just for curbside. Other than that, the only thing I want to say is that I want to thank Alex and his crew at the township. They take really good care of us with the building, so responsive, and it's been a great partnership over the years. And I don't believe that the city manager is on with us, but we have a great partnership with the city as well. And if you've been to Dominic Lufino Park, you can see that there is a story walk that is around the pond there, and that is a collaboration through the Park District and then the staff at the Beaver Creek Library. So there are a lot of good partnerships that we have in the community, and I want to thank the city and the township for all their support over time.
One thing I'd like to add to what Beth shared about the home collections. A big part of the idea of the home collection is to directly tackle the summer slide. We know that with the at-home schooling, the remote learning, that it's going to be critical this summer that we get books into the hands of families. You've heard me talk before about how important it is in terms of kids' neurological development that they actually handle physical materials. We're now seeing the information come out of the University of Cincinnati and out of Cincinnati Children's Hospital showing that it's really important up to a certain age that they really are working directly with books. And the home collection is a great down payment on that approach. And we will be looking as we go forward to find other ways that we can step into the gap that's going to be created here. We have some hope that there may be a chance to go back to school in the fall, but in the meantime, there is some lost time to make up for, and we're very pleased to be contributing to the work to do that. With all that said, it would be my pleasure to take your questions.
As part of the curbside service, are we now able to return books to the library that we've had out?
Thank you for asking that. Yes, you most certainly are. We're asking that folks return the books to the book drops. That is it's just part of the safety procedure, but you absolutely are welcome and encouraged to return your books. Thank you.
I have two questions regarding ebooks because I use a lot of ebooks. I read recently that some of the publishers are changing their criteria for libraries obtaining and sharing ebooks. How is that going to be affecting you in Greene County?
Okay, that's a really good question, Eric. So let's take the big picture. In the introduction, Beth mentioned that I'm a member of the Ohio Library Council Government Relations Committee. That is the group that is negotiating with publishers on behalf of the state of Ohio to try and do a little bit better. And let's think about this in the big picture. Publishers are trying to figure out how to reinvent their business in an online world. They're a business, they have to make a fair profit, or we won't have publishing, which isn't good for anybody. They are playing around with their models without always maybe thinking about how it impacts some of their biggest partners, like public libraries. This isn't actually the first time this has happened. I was involved in an effort back in 2009 where we worked with the publishers and Congress and all kinds of folks and managed to reach a reasonable settlement on how to handle things. We've had another eruption of this. I'm on the committee that's helping with this for Ohio. And actually, since the reporting first came out about the difficulties that have arisen there, we've actually had a number of meetings with publishers, and I feel like we're on a decent path to doing better. For now, the impact basically will be that there will be fewer copies of a publisher's hottest titles available during the first 8 weeks or so that book is on the market. We'll have it, but we won't have very many copies of it. Whereas, if you wanted that same book as just a book, physical book, I can buy 50, 100 copies if I need to in order to satisfy demand. So I'm pleased that we actually are able to satisfy demand, but we may, ironically, we may be doing it through a more old-fashioned means than an ebook. Ultimately, I think we'll come up with an arrangement where we can do some good bulk licensing with publishers. Some publishers want to sell to you on the old model. They want to sell you copy by copy. Some of the more progressive publishers say, well, we'll sell you a blanket license and you can pay for each one that you use, which I think ultimately is a better model and where we'll go with things.
Can you also address the fact that you're part of a larger consortium on your ebook, so that you are actually sharing your books with multiple libraries across the country? Is that how that works?
Not across the country, just around the state. And that's a really good way to leverage our dollars. So to put it in perspective, Greene County pays about 12% of the cost to have access to that collection. Columbus Metropolitan Library pays more than half of the cost to have access to that collection. And so it's proven to be a very effective leveraging of our dollars. If we didn't have that sharing arrangement, we wouldn't be able to offer nearly what we are able to offer in terms of our online services. But it isn't around the country, it's just around the state. We share with several other Ohio libraries. Centerville, for example, is also a member of that group, as are Columbus, Worthington, and some other Ohio, kind of mid-Ohio libraries. What other questions can I answer for you?
I don't have a question, but I do want to say thank you for singing. Took a lot of courage, but I think moving forward, all of our guest speakers need to sing one song before the meeting starts. So
I will leave that up to Mr. Zwick. I was surprised when I got the challenge, but I didn't feel I could flinch.
Could you repeat the process of checking out a book that you went over? I didn't get a chance to jot it down.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's really straightforward. All you do is go onto our website, greenelibrary.info, and you place a hold like you would for any book that you were placing a hold on. If you're not familiar with that process, you can also call us at the library and my staff will put it on hold for you. Once the hold is on, we'll let you know, usually via email, when we have that book for you. And then what you do is you drive up to the library, let's say Beaver Creek Community Library in this case. We have designated drive-up parking spots. When you arrive, you call the number on the sign and you just tell them who you are. And as I'm fond of saying, a masked librarian will bring your books out and drop them in the trunk of your car.
One thing I'd like to add is it's helpful if you have your library card with you when you pull up. So they're going to ask for when you call that number, they're going to ask for your name and the last 4 digits of your library card number. So that just helps us with the process.
Okay, are there any other questions for Karl or Beth? Karl, Beth, thank you. Thank you for what you do for the Beaver Creek community, and I get nothing but compliments from our residents about the Beaver Creek Community Library. So, and if I do get a complaint, it's usually on the township. We have to paint something or fix something up there. So, other than that, staff is wonderful, and every time I drive by, I try to stop in. I always get, obviously before the pandemic, but just how nice the staff treats everybody in the community. So please pass that on.
Certainly will.
Okay, are there any other announcements or anything else for the good of the club?
Yeah, just one quick thing. We have Bob Hackett speaking next week, and our own Rick Perales will be introducing. And the second thing I have is, Eric, the correct post office box number is 340475. Thank you.
I do want to say, I know I got thanked for the press release, but I want to thank Beth because that was actually her verbiage. So as far as me just copying and pasting the word, that's all I did. So thank you, Beth.
You're welcome. I do have a book that we will be donating in Karl's honor to the Beaver Creek Community Library. And it is called With a Little Help from My Friends. I know he's a big Beatles fan, and it is an adorable children's book to the lyrics of that song. So it'll go in your honor, Karl.
All right, any other announcements? Okay, everybody have a good holiday weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Have a safe week, and I'll see everybody next Friday. If anybody's having any issues with Zoom or connecting, please call me, let me know. I'm willing to come out, social distance, wear a mask, and get everybody connected that's having issues. All right, everybody, have a great week.
Thank you.